Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to Business Innovators Radio. With me today, I have the founder of the Ultimate Freedom Mastermind, Paul Maskill. So, Paul has built his own business from 0 to 500k in 4 years, and then he sold it for a lucrative return. And he's got a great story around what brought him to automation, which is what he focuses on now, from being in corporate America. And I'm going to let him share that story with you. So welcome, Paul. It's so good to have you on today.
Thank you, Lana. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So you're the go-to expert on all things automation. Tell us about your journey then from corporate America to where you are today.
Yeah. So I would say growing up, I was just listening to what everyone else told me to do. So, everyone says, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder for 40 plus years, and then you can retire and enjoy life. So I didn't know anything other than that. The only thing I knew about business ownership was everyone that owned, quote unquote, small business, self-employed. There was no internet. So everybody, owned their own service-based business or their own brick and mortar. And everyone said, this is crazy. Don't do it. Go work for somebody else. So I did. So I got a finance degree, moved to Chicago, sat in a cubicle, was there during the Great Recession and watched way too many people who hated their job lose their job and didn't know what to do without that job because they just had so much leverage lifestyle, whether it was car payments, kids' college loans, student loans, mortgaged, everything. So for me, it didn't really make sense to do something I didn't love for a company that didn't really care about me. I just watched them lay off like tens of thousands of people that were so loyal to them. And I wasn't making an impact. And I was really just serving these, shareholders who I don't know. They just own stock in the bank. And there was just no gratification. So I quit the job. Didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't going to go back to the corporate world. So I actually traveled around South America for a couple months, backpacked around with all people that weren't from America. Most Americans don't go like stuff their backpack with their stuff and go travel around South America for 2 months. So met a whole bunch of awesome people and everybody there, not just the people I was traveling with, but all the locals were way happier with a lot less stuff than any American I ever came across. So I was like, I'd rather be those people who have like a couple bucks a day, but love life than sit in a cubicle and be chained to a corporation, more or less. So anyway, moved back to the States and started my own business. And we ran after school golf and tennis programs for elementary kids. It was a passion of mine. I love coaching. I love golf. I love sports. And to me, I rather do that and not make a lot of money instead of doing something that I hated every day and make a little bit more money. Because at the end of the day, I didn't want to wait till I was like 65 or 70 to enjoy what I did every day. So, long story short, that business eventually became very successful, as you stated. We scaled it up, systematized it, automated it, sold it. And then people started asking me, how did you do that? So that's when I really started teaching other people how to build a business that doesn't need you 24/7 so you can make more money, have more time, and do what you really want to do in this world while also making an impact, with a business that you really believe in.
That's brilliant. I really relate to that as well. I think, I've had a similar journey in that, well, nothing like what you've had with the corporate, but in that I had my moment when I found happiness when I had almost nothing. I escaped from everything and I was in the middle of nowhere and I'd given away all of my belongings and I had nothing. And I thought, do you know what? And that's when it really hit me what's important in this world. And also, people tend to link corporate with safety, don't they? And as you've just said there, that's not the case. When we build our own businesses, we're in control of our own life. So,
yeah. For sure. I mean, once I saw what was happening, and now, say 10 years later, when it really kind of makes sense, and you learn obviously more in retrospect, but being employed by somebody else is basically having your own business with one client. If that client fires you, you're literally out of business tomorrow. Like that never happens in like, if I lost a couple clients today, it's like, that's okay. I still got plenty of other ones. Or, oh man, I didn't get as many sales as I wanted to. Well, I still got some, and I still have plenty of opportunity. Whereas you lose a job unexpectedly, it's like, whoa, that's
your
no fun.
whole life. Your whole life is built on the decision of one person.
Yeah, for sure. And usually it's a numbers game. It's not even it's not even relational. Like, I was working for a big bank that maybe they had 100,000 employees. I don't know, but whoever's making those decisions doesn't actually know the humans. It's just like, well, that person's making a little bit too much, and we could probably get someone to do it for less, or that person's been here too long. We need some fresh blood. And they're just looking at numbers, not even humans or relation. It's just, it's really just transactional.
Yeah, completely. So what brought you to focusing on automation above everything else? I saw a story where you were talking about your father that I found quite interesting. Do you want to tell us more about your father?
Yeah, so that's probably, in retrospect, probably the biggest push to help any business owner take what they're really good at and turn it into an actual business, a business that doesn't need them 24/7. Because if it does need you, it's not really a business. It's just another job, that you can call your own business, but your business is only making money if you're working, which is the definition of a job. So, and I kind of fell in the same trap. So when my vision, my goal all along, once I realized the corporate world wasn't for me, was just to become my own boss. And that was it. Like, once I achieved that goal, made that vision come to reality, I didn't really have any other goals. It was like, I guess this is it. Because growing up, it was very blue collar. Everybody that kind of owned their own business always worked in the business like 24/7. So my dad owned his own hardwood floor company. You got the HVAC guy, you got the plumber. Everybody was kind of a one-man, one-woman band, other than, brick and mortars. But even the brick and mortars, whoever started the restaurant was usually the person who loved cooking. And then all of a sudden they realized they hate cooking because they got to do 75 other things besides cook to make the business work. So, really what happened with my dad, which is really just kind of pushing, where I think that's furthering my mission and my making a bigger impact, is he was a one-man band for 44 years doing hardwood floors, did a great job, was like well known in his area, really within the state where he lived. And he had a wait list for like 6 months at a time. People were willing to wait that long to get their floors done by him. The problem was it was just him. So there was no exit strategy. There was no opportunity to take all his knowledge and transfer it to another generation. So he literally physically couldn't do the work anymore. So his exit strategy was sold his truck, sold his tools, and called it a day. When just with a little couple shifts, a little couple nudges, a little, maybe mentorship, accountability, and a plan, could have taken that business, turned it into a really big opportunity, and had that, really create a passive income stream. When you're finally saying, okay, I'm done, you could continue to move that on and really reap the rewards of the risk that you took all those years to be a business owner. So that's really what I focus on now, is really helping any business owner that is really good at what they do to turn it into a business and allow that business to thrive without them, so they can have that freedom, make more money, and do what they really want to do in this world. Because at the end of the day, we've only got one life, so we might as well make the most of it and not have any regrets when it's all said and done.
Damn right. So if there's somebody listening now and they're in a similar position, maybe to, the position that your father was in, what would you say to them? Like, where would they start? What would be the first step for them to take?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for me, what I realized, kind of what I talked about, I didn't really have that vision. And I really had to make that my ultimate filter to start making decisions, because I was so scared to delegate. The business was my baby. Nobody could run it as well as I could. Nobody could talk to the customers the way I talked to them. All those things that I make up in my head, until I remembered back when, so like the first time this kind of came to me was when I quit my job, and everyone told me I was crazy. Like, oh my gosh, you made it through the recession and you're quitting like this perfectly fine financial job. And to me, the worst case scenario wasn't as bad as everyone said it was going to be, isn't as bad as we think it's going to be. If I quit my job and started my own business, it didn't work, crashed and burned, I could always go get another job. So taking that worst case scenario is never as bad as we think it's going to be, kind of motto, mantra, whatever you want to call it, into delegating and giving up quote unquote control. If you gave up whatever you're doing right now to somebody else, I just hired this new person and, Jim, this is your new job. You're going to do all the stuff that I used to do. And Jim doesn't work. He crashes and burns, total failure. The only thing that's going to happen is all his work's going to come back to me. and I already have it anyway. So why don't I take the risk? Because I know eventually it will work. And the reason I know that is because other people have done it. And if they can do it, so can I. And I thought, well, if this big bank, who is like totally clueless, in my opinion, from a management leadership, perspective, if they can do it, so can I. If that big business down the street can do it, so can I. We just have to be willing to kind of get out of our comfort zone and make it happen. So really, it starts with that vision. What does your ideal life look like? And then what type of business do you need to build in order to make that happen? And usually what I find is once we're really clear on our vision, because we've never gotten clear, usually our goal is just to survive the day, keep the hamster wheel going, keep feeding the machine. But when we really have a clear vision of what does our ideal life look like, and why did I start this business in the first place? How much money am I making? How am I spending my time? Where am I traveling to? How many hours am I working? You can really get concrete on what that life looks like, which allows you to tie a number to it, a financial number. And that financial number of what you need to make is usually a lot less than people think. We just get these big dreams in our head of, I want to do 7 figures. But if we don't know why and we don't have a plan, it doesn't really matter. So once you have that super clear personal vision, you can figure out what type of business do I actually need to build? How many people do I need in place? How much revenue do I need to do? How many customers do I need to have? And then how much profit is that going to pay me in order to go live my ideal life? And now for the first time probably ever, we have a concrete destination, and now we can work backwards to make that happen and really put a plan in place.
That's brilliant. So how can people automate and get a team in place without their outgoing costs going out of hand?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest, I would say, mindset hurdles most people have is, I can't afford hiring somebody right now. I can't do this. And I was just talking to a guy named Nathan Hirsch. I don't know if you talked to him, but he was just on my podcast, and he's a VA expert. And literally, he has a VA that the only job this person has is to clean up his inbox. So they're in the Philippines, he's in the States. So when he wakes up every morning, his inbox is like clean, and he pays that person.
I'm with him. I have the most amazing VA who does that for me.
So so you can start so small, and really, if you take what I recommend everybody is just look at everything that you do in your business. There's plenty of tasks that you could pay somebody $5, $10, $15 an hour to do, which would not only free up your time so you could go make more money, but it also frees up kind of your mental clarity, because those tasks usually bog us down the most. We hate doing them. It drives us nuts. And when we can have less things to focus on and have more mental energy to spend on them, we can really start automating. And automating doesn't necessarily mean a piece of technology, even though there's technology that does almost everything. It just means it gets done automatically and you don't have to do it. So whether it's cleaning up your inbox or doing follow-up emails or running reports every day, whatever your business is, there's plenty of tasks that you do that you could pay somebody a lot less to do them. So you could then take that time and spend it on more revenue generating activities, serving your clients better, going to get more clients, whatever it is. You're exchanging $10 an hour for, at least $50 an hour, hopefully more than that if you're a business owner. If not, you can go get a job and make more than $10 an hour. So just little tasks like that, literally just document every single thing that you do and say, what could I do if I didn't have to do that? Or what's the one thing, if I had more time to do, it would really catapult my business? Maybe that's networking events. Maybe that's getting on more podcasts. Maybe it's starting a podcast, whatever it is. But leveraging your skills and expertise instead of doing things that other people could do. If you just got over the hurdle of it's okay to pay somebody to do this because it's going to make your life a lot easier. I've never really talked to anybody that's done that that says, man, I wish I wouldn't have delegated, or I wish I wouldn't have outsourced.
Yeah, I'm with you completely on that one. What I tend to ask myself is, if I'm thinking about whether to do something myself or whether to outsource, I generally ask myself, okay, well, firstly, how long is that going to take me? But also, how much mental energy is it going to take? What's it going to, is it going to be on my mind all day? Am I going to be dreading it? Am I going to be procrastinating? Because that's a thing we do, isn't it? So, and then when I think about all of those things, I'm like, I break it down and I think, well, what is that time and energy worth? And there's rarely a point where I don't think, I better do it myself. If it's something that I don't want to, it's going to be so much better for my business if I stick to my genius zone and other people do, what they can do. That way I've got my mental capacity at its fullest for the things that I do best and for the things that I enjoy. So I am with you on that one 100%.
Yeah. And I would say another thing that's kind of outside the box that most people don't think about is stuff you do in your personal day-to-day life that takes up time. So once we had our first child, she's almost 4 now, but like one of the first things we did was hire somebody to clean our house.
Oh, yes.
I didn't want to spend all weekend cleaning my house when we could, one, it's never going to get done with a child because they're just going to go, you'll do one thing and then they need attention and then they want to do this. So literally like that saves us an entire weekend almost, just because how long it would take with a child. So they come while we're not here. They're good at it. They're experts at it. And that frees up so much time that I can do whatever I want with, spend with my family, work on my business, whatever it is. But things like that, having people, you can order your groceries online. You can do so many things.
Oh, yes.
Automate your life so you don't have to think about it. So you can focus on less things, but do more, just do more of less instead of doing less of a whole bunch more.
Oh, yes. 100%. Definitely with you. Okay. So I've seen you talk about 5 systems that every business owner must have perfected. Do you want to talk us through those?
Yeah. So once I'm, working with any client or any business owner and they say, okay, this is great. Well, how do I start working on my business? How do I start delegating? How do I start automating? This is kind of where I start. So every business basically has 5 systems, no matter what business you're in. This is kind of how I've broken it down. And if you just follow the customer journey, it'll make it very easy to remember. So the first system is lead generation. How are you generating interest? How are you getting people to learn more about you? How are you generating those leads? That's kind of your first one. No matter what business you're in, brick and mortar, your service-based business, your online business owner, that's your first system. The second one then is turning those leads into sales. So turning them into customers, which is your sales process. So that's the second system. The third one is customer relations. So the customer service, customer experience that you deliver. The fourth one is the actual service that you provide or the actual product you sell. How can you replicate that? How can you duplicate that? And then the last one is the one that most people hate. The one that I probably love most is the operations, all the back end systems and processes, finances, technology, all the things that make your business go that your customers never see, but are so important. So if you have those 5 systems, what I recommend everybody to do to start delegating, how can I free up some of my time so I can spend, more time on the things I really want to do? Go through each one of those systems and write down every single thing that you do for each system. And this is also good exercise to find gaps and things you might not be doing because you might not have time or you're not doing well. But write down every process that you do. So each big system, lead gen, sales, customer relations, the service, and operations, those are your 5 systems. Everything that makes up those are your processes. Write them all down. And then I do what's called like a delegation snowball. So maybe you've written down 150 processes. Now go through each one of those and figure out how long it takes to do that, how often you do it, who should be doing it. And you really start to build this plan of getting everything off your plate. And then you number that 1 through 150. Number 1 is the thing you want to delegate like tomorrow. What would you delegate if you could start? And you just go through each one at a time. Start delegating. Find a VA, find a personal assistant, find an executive assistant, find somebody that's already on your team to do it. Find a service provider that provides these, whatever it is. Go through each single one. And if you did one a day, you basically have every single thing delegated in your business in 6 months or less. So that's really what I recommend. And then, once you've done that, then you just need to start the process of actually documenting how they're done. So doing them in repetitive motion, documenting how it's done so somebody else or something else could do it. And then you hand it off to that person. So if you did that, and the way I recommend everybody determine what's the number one thing you want to delegate, mainly just from a mindset hurdle, do delegate the easiest thing ever, something that like a 5-year-old could do. Because this is going to start building your habit, building your muscle of this is how I delegate, this is how I automate. And you can start doing that. It could be something as simple as, like you said, going into your inbox and cleaning everything up. Unless it's from these 10 people, you can respond to them. Or unless it's from these 5 people, you can delete it. Whatever it is, you have a system in your head. You have a process in your head. You just haven't told anybody about it. So it's like the best kept secret that you want to start sharing.
I love that. That's really good advice. It's going back to what you were saying earlier, isn't it? About people find it, people want to create this life of freedom, but they do find it really hard to let go of control and of that thinking that things aren't going to get done very well. So I really liked what you said there about just starting with something like a 5-year-old would do and then gradually building it up. And that was a really good explanation of how to figure out what to start delegating as well. Brilliant. Which automation softwares do you use? Like what would be your softwares that you wouldn't do without?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I think is really awesome now in the year 2020, there's literally like a specific software for like every single industry out there. So I used to own a pet sitting and dog walking business. There's actually software out there that handles just that. Like people have built software just for that. So it literally automates pretty much the entire process. The customer puts in their request, we approve it, it gets assigned to somebody. That person who's assigned to checks in when they get there, checks out when they leave. That generates an invoice. The invoice goes out. So like that process used to take probably hours if you did it manually. So now there's a software that does it. I'm a partner in a landscaping company. There's software made just for landscapers that you can do the same thing. Requests come in, you send a quote, that creates a job. The job gets assigned to your staff does it, marks it complete, that generates an invoice. All that software is great. So, depending on whatever business you're in, there's probably something like that. And then as far as like email automation, I'm a fan of ActiveCampaign. That makes my life a lot easier. And then as far as like actually delegating, you can use Zoom. Zoom is great to do training and recording. I recommend everybody do video training because the best part about it is you can record it, give it to the person you're training, and you have this asset now that you can train over and over. Even if that person leaves, you don't have to sit next to them all day. So like my original corporate life, day one for the first week or two, I literally just sat next to the person who was training me and just took notes all day and tried to remember every single thing. And by the next day, I forgot pretty much all of it. And I didn't have any resources other than the person. So I kept having to bug them. It's not efficient. So now with video, whether it's Zoom, Loom, Camtasia, your iPhone, if it's an in-person task, whatever it is, you can record the video and then you have this asset that anybody else can learn at their own pace. They can pause, rewind. They don't have to bug you. It empowers them to kind of take ownership and not have to rely on you, which also makes your life easier.
Oh, definitely. I have it's just like a membership site, but it's just for my team. And absolutely everything is on there. So whenever I do something new, I just do a screen share and I record the whole thing. And then it goes on to this membership site that only my team have access to. And that has been a game changer for me.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I encourage just to get started. Like a lot of people say, well, I don't even know where to start, or I've got like 200 videos to do. That's overwhelming to start. Just get started, build the habit, build the routine, build that document library, build that training thing. And it could be as simple as, Google Drive or a Dropbox. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be functional.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Brilliant. So what do people need to think about before they start creating their systems and processes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the number one thing is, does it align with your vision, and does your vision align with your business's vision? Like, is this falling in line? The other thing I would recommend everybody is asking yourself, like, is this scalable? Because a lot of times we do things just to get them done, but it's not really scalable. So you might as well make it scalable now instead of waiting until you've built a bigger house of cards that's potentially going to collapse. The bigger it gets, more likely it's going to collapse. So take the time to build that solid foundation. Make sure it's scalable. Make sure the process that you're doing could be replicated by more than one person. Because I see a lot of people. I was just working with a client of mine about this, and she was trying to take a couple of systems because they were free to make it work. But once she scaled to like 2 employees, it really wasn't going to be functional. Whereas if she spent a little bit of money, $20 a month or whatever on a different software, that's scalable as far as you want. And then you don't have to redo it later. It's always going to be harder to redo it later because your business is going to be bigger. A lot of people say, once I get to, 6 figures, then I'll start putting this in place. Well, the bigger your business gets, the less likely you are to actually take action because you're going to be busier, your problems are going to be bigger, and you're not really helping yourself. So, taking a moment to ask yourself, is this scalable? Or do I need to just like hit pause for a couple seconds and make this scalable so then I can build my business even bigger?
Really good advice. Well, Paul, this has been absolutely brilliant. It's been a gold mine of value, and I'm sure, I hope that the listeners start putting this into practice today. Before we finish, I'm going to move on to a little section of the show that I call Get in the Bin or Get in the Trash for my American friends. So what I'd like to know, Paul, is I'm going to give you the chance now. I'm going to give you the power to put one business idea or practice in the bin, whatever it is, something you don't like, you get to get rid of it today, never to be seen again. What's it going to be?
There's a lot of them, but I would say LinkedIn message spamming drives me nuts. The copy and pasting of sending this in like this 10 paragraph initial message of, hey, buy my stuff, book a call, look how awesome I am. I can get you to 8 figures overnight. All that stuff drives me crazy. Because if that's their method of getting clients, I don't want to hire them to get my clients because that I just don't like it. And I rather build genuine relationships and do business the right way. Unfortunately, people like that ruin it for everybody. So, even if you are genuinely trying to connect with someone on LinkedIn, they're probably going to ignore you because we get those messages every single day. So throw that in the bin and let it stay in there and let the garbage man pick it up and take it to the dump.
Be gone! That really made me laugh because just before we came on this today, I quickly went on my LinkedIn and I was going to answer my messages, and then I saw I had 90 something, I think it was 96 messages, and I thought, nah, I'll leave that one for today. Oh, well, Paul, this has been fantastic. Do you have any final words for our listeners? And do let them know as well where they can find you.
Yeah, I would say, really just get started. The worst case scenario is never as bad as it's going to be, kind of like we talked about before. Just take action, keep moving forward. If you improve 1% every single day, you'll see massive success within like 6 to 12 months. So just get started. Don't let fear take over. At the end of the day, the worst case scenario is never as bad as we think it's going to be. And we are humans. So even if something happens, we respond, we survive, we make it right. So do that. And then if anybody wants to connect with me, I would just send them to 2 places. One, since they are listening to this podcast, I do have a podcast of my own called the Business Owners Freedom Formula Show. So we bring on guest experts. I do solo shows, share with what's going on in my business. So definitely tune into that, subscribe to that. And then the other thing, if anybody is interested in having a conversation, just go to paulmaskill.com/mastermind. So I run masterminds. Really, that's my belief that is really the best tool to get to where we really want to go, make those transformations, reach our full potential, and have that mentor, have that plan, and most importantly, have the accountability so we can get to where we want to go. So listen to the podcast, Business Owners Freedom Formula Show. If you do want to set up time to chat, go to paulmaskill.com/mastermind, and I'd love to chat and work with you.
That's brilliant. Get yourselves over there. Well, Paul, you have been absolutely fantastic. To all the listeners, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.